101 days until Selection Sunday. A pleasant good evening. Welcome to Buffalo Wild Wings off Dave Lyle Boulevard here in Rock Hill by the Galleria Mall. With Mike Pacheco, I'm Dave Friedman. Women's coach Kevin Cook waiting in the wings. The women's team is 4-2. The men's team is 3-3. Both squads with very busy weeks. The women's team getting off to a good start in Big South Conference play with a victory over Campbell earlier this week. The men are already 1-1 this week, and they head to College Park, Maryland to take on the Terrapins at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Hope you'll have an opportunity during the hour to join us here at Buffalo Wild Wings. 60-cent boneless wings on Thursday, $3 happy hour domestics. See our buddy Diego, 25 sauces for your wings. Great stuff here at Buffalo Wild Wings. If you want to contribute to the show, we'd love to have you on Twitter. Send us a tweet using hashtag WooCoaches. That's hashtag WUCoaches. And we'll try to have the time to ask Coach Kevin Cook and Coach Pat Kelsey your question tonight. The women's team is 4-2. They will play at Ohio State Sunday at 2. Mike will have the call beginning at 1:30 on the Winthrop Sports Network. But, Coach, that rare conference game in the middle of a non-conference schedule, and you guys get a victory over Campbell. How nice is it now to sit for a few weeks and go, hey, we're 1-0?
1-0 and leading the conference.
It's good to be ahead.
Yeah, it's great to be out here at Buffalo Wild Wings always, and with you two guys, and, you know, especially to have 3 straight victories. You know, you hear different coaches or different people say, stay level throughout the season. Don't get too high with the wins. Don't get too low with the losses. Baloney. Hey, we work 365 days of the year, and for 33, 35 opportunities, we win. I'm going to be happy, man.
Hey, when I worked in Vermont, Tom Brennan celebrated every single win like he had won the national championship.
I like that. I need to get together with that guy, man, and have some nachos and cheese. That's kind of my place of the adult libations and nachos and cheese.
Fair enough.
Well, and Dave says he throws pretty good parties, too, so he's a good guy to hang
I've been
out
at
with.
a few of those.
Yeah, top notch.
So 3 straight coming into the Ohio State game, a kind of monumental win. We didn't have a lot of chance to talk about it, but on Saturday, a big win over Auburn, a team that out of the SEC, a big team, program on the rise. Yeah, Big Bad's just taking over the show here. It's my son, John. But how important was that win? I know every win's important, but to get a win over an SEC team on your home court, what does that mean for you and for the program?
I thought it was great for our players and great for the program in Winthrop University. You get the Southeast Conference and the prestige that they've always been one of the top conferences in women's basketball. And Sir Charles, alma mater to boot.
Yeah.
So that all makes it good. But it was a great team victory. In my 3 years here, we've had some big wins. But that I told the team that was as much a team victory as any that we've had here at Winthrop, and that was especially gratifying.
And what about the way the game was won, making big defensive plays down the stretch? That has to be something that you were pretty happy with.
Absolutely. There were big plays throughout that game, not just defensively, but the way that we handled their constant and steady pressure from opening tip to buzzer. They're a program that presses, and, that victory looks even brighter because a couple nights ago they just throttled Marquette by close to 20 points. So that was a huge victory for us. And like I told our players, you think about that game, you say, that's a nice win. But a coach's mind, if we're fortunate enough to be where we want to be, that's a seeding game. And that's big.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because the program continues to get better. We saw 3 years ago the win over Mississippi State. But when you look at what this team has accomplished, how much does it build upon from last year carrying over into this year? And, with Shaquille Nunn 2 years under her belt and playing a big game at home, now it's not anything to do that. Before it might have been too big a moment for them, but now they're used to playing in big stages.
Yeah, and that's what helped with the Tennessee game. We got hit in the mouth by the Tennessee Vols, but there is no bigger stage. It's the women's basketball capital of the universe, and Thompson Bowling Arena, one of the nicest, most luxurious on-campus arenas in the country. It was a great atmosphere, and that helped us in preparation for Auburn. You know, we weren't awed by them. We weren't awed by their size, their speed, and their depth. And it was just great to come out with the victory.
Last year.
And let me say this now. It's nice to be sitting here at 4-2, but we're 4 points away from me looking at 2-4, and so we're grateful.
Last year, we asked you about your schedule a couple times, and you said, well, look at the guy that created it. Scheduling is a bit of a maze. How did you get Auburn to come to Rock Hill?
Well, I work in lockstep with Coach Liberty Del Rosario, and we both negotiated fiercely for that. And, you know, most of the time you get a home and home if you're lucky, or you get to go to the SEC school or the ACC school, and there's a guarantee involved. But we were fortunate enough to work things out and now get a return game to their place, and I'm sure they're going to be looking forward to that as well.
And how important, too, Coach, and last year I think it was the same situation, 4 home games in the non-conference. It looks like 5 because Campbell was a conference game in the middle of this big stretch, but to have 5 home games in your first 2 months, you know, how important is that to really help build momentum for the rest of the season?
Well, it's huge. You know, we like the Coliseum and the friendly confines. We'd like to see more and more people come on out and take part. And, I think that's going to happen for both programs. We just got to continue to win, and the fever will take place, and, you know, we'll see more fans as the season goes along.
Inside the last minute against Campbell, Erica Williams has, I don't know, what, a 12, 13-footer, kind of a fall-away shot. You saw her practicing those and shoot around, and what'd you say to her? I
didn't know what in the world she was doing. You know, I was like, you're never going to shoot that in a game, Erica, you know, and she's fading away and kicking that foot in the air. And, I mean, goodness gracious, I couldn't believe it when she raised up. And the next day I came out with our morning, you know, here it is. We come off of a big emotional win against Auburn. We don't experience the emotional winning hangover. We get by Campbell. The next day it's like 8:15, we're on the court. The team's gathered around. I said, guys, let me show you one of the highest percentage shots of ball in basketball, the fadeaway jumper right here from about 16 feet, dead corner. They started cracking up. So it's a light moment.
And another great thing that we saw in the game, Nyema Jackson is in that final minute. The only time she played on the court, she gets fouled on the inbound. It was a 1-on-1 situation. She made the first, which ended up being a huge make, missed the second one. But what a big spot for the freshman to build some confidence.
It was a big spot for all of us, and I was talking with our GA, Carlotta Kloppenberg, the next day, and she said, Coach, you're either this or you're stupid. And I don't want to say what the other part was, but doggone it, you know, she made me look. I said, Naima, what happened to the other free throw? She said, my left elbow is out a little bit. I said, well, we got to correct that one now.
But the last 3 wins have all come pretty closely. What does that say about what you're trying to – the tempo and really the attitude that you're trying to build this year?
It shows the toughness and the character of our players that we were able to persevere. You know, we haven't talked a lot about the North Carolina Central game, and we got to play with with Shaquila Nunn. Let's talk about Shaquila Nunn a minute. She's in the top 5 in the country in block shots. She's in the top 20 in scoring and rebounding, and we got to have her for 7 minutes in that game. And it wasn't by design. That's for sure, but we worked through it and withstood a lot of things at that game, and that kind of built some toughness and character right there. And then to get 5 points down, not once but twice in the second half to Auburn and claw our way back, it showed a lot of guts and resiliency. And then to hang on against Campbell once again, you know, we knew Campbell was going to be tough, and Amanda Coffer and Kiara Gaines are as tough a 1-2 punch as there is in the conference, and they hurt us, and we knew that they were going to be a tough challenge, and they were. But again, we got to find to keep Quila Nunn in the game, and that's going to be vital. I don't think it would have been that close if she would have been out there as many minutes as we wanted to be. But sometimes people are targeted. But I told her, hey, Bill Walton, Pat Ewing, all the bigs have been targeted. And that's because you're, the biggest and you're sometimes the most talented on the court. You're going to be watched closely. So we're working with her in that area.
And what do you do defensively to put her in situations where you can make an impact but doesn't commit fouls?
As always, that's an outstanding question. What we've done is we've pulled every single clip of every one of her fouls, and we're going to go over that. And we tell Quila, hey, you're lighter now. You're better conditioned, you're in better shape, and you're actually lighter than you were last season. So you're quick enough to get off and get around. You don't have to reach around, like you did last year. And so hopefully she'll take that to heart because we sure need her out there.
When you've looked at those fouls, are they good fouls? Are they fouls at the rim, or are they fouls 25 feet from the basket?
There's no foul that's a good foul. So
I'd say most of them have been underneath the basket or right inside.
Well, a lot of times I don't see them the same way as the crew out there.
I am shocked.
But you have gotten some great minutes from Ezine Mbamalu, the freshman. How has she exceeded expectations?
Let me tell you, if we were to judge Ezine Mbamalu with just her practice performances, she may not get the call to go in the game. But she is a gamer. She is the true definition of gamer. When those bright lights come on, she transforms from Ezine into female Hakeem Olajuwon. And, that we don't see it often in practice, so we just have to wait around for the game.
Brett McCormick on Twitter chiming in with hashtag Luke Coaches wants to know who would win a game of silver tea or golden tea between you and Coach Kelsey.
What's that mean now?
The video game, the arcade game.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it'd probably be Coach Kelsey.
No, this is a guy who didn't even celebrate the championship, Dave. I mean, he,
went straight to recruiting.
Watching
film.
Yeah, so golden tea. That's a foreign concept here. All right, well, let's take a quick time out here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Eagles head coach Kevin Cook joining us here. Big week. We'll talk a little bit about Ohio State. They're an interesting team, to say the least, a team that's in transition, a new building program for Kevin McGuff, who came over from Washington, had a great career, a good 9 seasons at Xavier. So we'll talk to Coach Cook about that. Dave Friedman alongside. I am Mike Pacheco, and you're listening to the Winthrop Coaches Show here at Buffalo Wild Wings on the Winthrop Sports Network.
I wanted to get around. This is just us. This is not going out, is it?
Okay.
Welcome back to the Winthrop Coaches Show here at Buffalo Wild Wings. You can enjoy 65-cent boneless wings every Thursday night. The $3 happy hour on domestics, $4 and $5 craft beers. Our next Coaches Show is Thursday, December 11th. That's a week from today. And that'll be our last show of this part of the year, 2014.
Well,
We'll have another show, but our next show here live will be in January 7th. We are
but that does not mean people should not send us questions at hashtag Woo Coaches. We will talk to the coaches December 18th for all your Christmas plans.
And Brett, I will try to get familiar with silver and golden tee. I have a feeling it has a little bit to do with golf.
Yes.
You know, I grew up as a caddy, and that's as close as I came.
You were a looper, huh?
Yeah, I did do that to make some money and to buy clothes for myself for the school year. So I was out there on the course about every day of the year. But right now, I would be experiencing a case of the yips every time I got on the green. Parkinson's just won't let me putt like I used to.
So did you recommend people use 2 irons and 3 irons, or did you like the 4 and 5 woods?
Always go with the iron, but I would always club these guys a club longer than they needed, for their egos.
I'd rather shoot the green than hit it a lot short, no doubt about it. Well, Ohio State, Coach, they'll be 4-4 when we see them on Saturday or Sunday, be a 2:00 game. So 104.1 The Bridge coverage starts at 1:30. But they're an interesting team. They've had 2 ACL injuries, another leg injury. They'll play 7, maybe 8 deep, but they might have the best guard combination in the country. Their 2 guards averaging, it's over, I think, 40, 45 points a game just between the 2 of them.
They are salty. Let me tell you, the freshman phenom that they have, Kelsey Mitchell, is a left-handed gunslinger. I don't know what her maturity is, but she's physically WNBA ready right now. She's as good as guard as we'll have played against ever since I've been at Winthrop. And, I mean, you've got to guard her NBA range, and it's not a set shot. I mean, she's coming down at breakneck speed, stopping and popping, shaking and baking. She's either all the way to the rack or let me pull up for a 3. She had an off night last night against Pitt. They held her to 21, and she's averaging 28 on the season, leading the country. So she and her sidekick there, Alston, are awfully tough. And then Aaron Kraft's sister plays on that team, and she had 5 triples last night. So
she shoots better than her brother.
That's exactly right. Doesn't quite defend like him, but she can outshoot him, and so we just want them to limit their threes. We don't want it to be raining threes like Lamar Mundane on our heads.
But Pace, if you talk to the average person and you say you're playing a team that only has 7 players, you might think it's going to be a slow down type of game. But this is quite the opposite. They're averaging over 80 points a game. They're giving up over 80 points a game.
Yeah, they rip and run, and it's going to be a track meet. We worked today a lot on our transition defense, and that's going to be a key. People, they think about transitioning as just sprinting back. There's a lot more to it than that. We put a new wrinkle in for this game. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. It's something that I've never done before in my coaching career as far as transition defense, but it looks like the team picked it up pretty well, and we should be able to execute it. But now we showed them clips today, and Kelsey Mitchell just bombing away from, like, how are we going to guard that? I said, guys, we're not going to stop her. and we're not. She's going to score. We just don't want her to score 38.
You've been coaching a long time, and we're not going to ask you what the wrinkle is. But when you decide to put something else in that you haven't done before, where does that idea come from?
A lot of times in the shower, and a lot of times watching other film.
Sometimes happens at lunch, like it did last week.
Yeah, that's right. It can happen at any time, at anywhere. But sometimes you're just tweaking other ideas that you see. Like we put a wrinkle in offensively that we kind of tweaked up what Georgia did against them and had some success. So they come from all different areas, and some work out and some don't work so well. But we talk about the ones that do work out.
This game almost had an interesting side note. Kelsey Mitchell has a twin sister, Chelsea Mitchell. Chelsea's one of the 3 players that's not going to be playing. And of course, Winthrop has Nuba and Naima, the twins. It's nice when you can put that together. And we also saw that against Auburn with
That's right.
with twins.
The Jones twins.
The Jones
Makes
twins.
it difficult to broadcast.
That's right. But, Nuba and Naima, it was funny. Naima was at the line, and I heard one of our fans say, "Come on, Nuba, knock him in."
Yeah, I heard that too.
But it was actually Naima. They're hard to tell apart. But, it's a kind of a homecoming game for me. I grew up in the state of Ohio. There's going to be a lot of familiar faces. And Ariane Whitaker, who we just recently signed an early signing period, she and folks will be there. And that's going to be awfully nice. And so we're going to have support there, and hopefully we'll be able to play as well as we can play. If we play a good game, it doesn't need to be a great game, but if we play a good game near our best, then I like our chances. It's not like we're going into the Schottenstein Center with no chance. I mean, we've got more than a good chance, and we shot the ball a lot today, and we shot it well. So if we're shooting it well, then we're going to have a great chance on Sunday afternoon. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to the bus ride, but I'm really looking forward to the game.
How important is it we talked a little bit about this last time when we talked about going to Tennessee, but exposing the players to different atmospheres. Ohio State is one of the best facilities overall when you look at not just the shoe, but Jack Nicklaus helped redesign the golf courses there. I mean, how important is it I know you've tried to do this a little bit, is expose the kids to a little bit of culture, but also show them different parts of the country?
Like I told the team today, Ohio State, their team, the game poses something that we won't see. We're trying to play a lot of different styles to get us ready for our conference play and hopefully beyond. So that's what we're trying to do. This team, like you say, I don't care whether they have 7 or 17 players. They have as good a fast break attack as anybody in the country. And we've got to get back. So that'll help us. And all of our opponents have different things that they bring. And I told them it's just like told our team today, it's just like studying for a test. And the Ohio State brings a different kind of a test to us on Sunday.
And you still want to establish your tempo, and which is still going to be pretty quick, but not maybe get caught up in the tempo that they're going to want to have.
No, I don't want to get into a running game with them. We've got to pick our spots to run, and those spots to run may be the last 5 minutes of the game when those 7 players are a little bit tired out.
I wanted to bring up a player that we haven't really talked about today, but I think she's improved greatly since last year. Mobility, even from a leadership standpoint, is Zoe Vernon. She's really provided some good key minutes early on here.
She really has, and Zoe came to us with a outstanding prep career, and she's used to scoring and scoring in bunches. And, that's a good segue, actually, Mike, because I talked to Zoe today about having a breakout game against the Bucks. And she's going to have that opportunity. I mean, she's going to get open shots against them. And I'm looking for, like I told the team today, I had a premonition she's going to make 5 or 6 triples. If she makes 5 or 6 triples Sunday, we're going to really, really have a good chance.
We talked a little bit what I'm about to mention, but I'll take it in a different direction. The team attitude was different from last year coming into this year in that, some teams could, after winning a championship, maybe lax a little bit and maybe feel good about themselves. But this team really took the attitude that you have. We talked about Shaquilla Nunn losing some weight.
Erica Williams
continues to work on her game, working on the outside shot. She had the three-pointer a couple games ago. But also, I think Zoe's in that mode as well. She's moving a lot better than she was last year.
She is in tremendous condition, and her defense has improved. I told Samaya Wright today, she's a senior, I said, your defense has improved in the last week. I mean, so you're constantly getting better. I tell the team every day in every way we're getting better and better. We got to get better defensively. We've got to get better offensively. And I want more assisted baskets. I'm a little bit concerned in that area. And so we've got to work on our offenses and get some assisted baskets, and I think that'll greatly improve
When I talked to Wanda Watkins before the game, the Campbell head coach, one of the players that she was concerned about was Samaya Wright. We've talked a lot about Erica Williams this year. We've talked a lot about Shaquilla Nunn, and she said, "I know those two are going to, they're going to have good games." She was concerned with Samaya Wright, and it helps having her when she's making her shots, and she's off to almost like 2 years ago when she came out of the blocks running and gunning with the shot. Seems like she's built up and maybe regained that confidence from the outside.
Well, I think so. I mean, you're talking about 1,000-point scorer, so she's fully capable. And, it's not just Coach Watkins, and I respect Coach Watkins greatly and care about her, more than she'll ever know. But all the coaches in our league have a fear for Samaya because Samaya is the kind of player that could drop 25 on you in a heartbeat. And I mean, real quick.
And she's had some big games against Campbell, too.
She's had some big games against them. She had a big game against Liberty. She had 30 in an upset win. She's had 30 against Coastal Carolina. I'd like her to have 30 on Sunday afternoon.
Coach, as we wrap up this segment, Ohio State, and then you turn around and play Davidson, and then you're back on the road for the Wichita State tournament. Do you segment the season at all? Time or a road trip at a time? Do you look at this? If we could win so many out of these, or if we could get better in a certain way in those games, that would be a positive.
You bring up some of the greatest topics, and that's why you're one of the best. But let me tell you and answer it this way. Now, we have not done that a lot this year so far. 3-game sets, especially in conference, where we'll box them together and say, this is what we want to accomplish, this is what we want to come out, and this is what we want to get done. Now, we haven't done that per se, but we'll do that for Wichita State with George Mason and Wichita State. We know we have those two as opponents. It's not really a tournament, it's a classic. So we know our opponents will do that. But you mentioned Ohio State. I haven't even started looking at Davidson yet, and they're tough as nails. So we know that we've got our hands full there. What I want our players to do is take this time going up to Ohio State and really hit the books. Study hard. We've got finals coming up. At halftime a couple Mondays ago, we had the President's Honor Roll. Recognized at halftime of the game, and we had 10 individuals make that. Now, I'm proud of that, and I think our team's taking great pride in that. And so I want them to do well on their finals, and then we'll talk about Davidson, and then we'll talk about Wichita State, and then we'll talk about having a Merry Christmas.
The women are 4-2. They play at Ohio State on Sunday, home for Davidson next week. When we come back on our Winthrop Coaches Show live from Buffalo Wild Wings, we'll hear from men's coach Pat Kelsey. Hope you can join us out here. We're here every week at BW3, 60-cent boneless wings on Thursdays, $3 happy hour specials. Come see our buddy Diego and order yourself a great meal and some Winthrop basketball. We're back after this on the Winthrop Sports Network. Welcome back to Buffalo Wild Wings. It's our Winthrop Basketball Coaches Show. We're here each week off Dave Lyle Boulevard in Rock Hill by the Galleria Mall. You can send questions for men's coach Pat Kelsey and Winthrop women's coach Kevin Cook on Twitter. #WooCoaches, #WU Coaches. The men's basketball team falling in overtime last night at Jacksonville State, 79-76. They're 3-3 on the year. They'll play at Maryland on Saturday at 2 o'clock and then home for Mars Hill next Tuesday. The women's team at Ohio State Sunday, home next week against Davidson. Get your tickets, 803-323-2345, 323-2345. Tickets also available online at winthropeagles.com. Well, we had a long bus ride home last night. You had a chance to watch the tape of Jacksonville State. The numbers indicate that it was a very tight game throughout, and the two categories you would circle are the offensive rebounds for the Gamecocks and your turnovers. Watching the tape, did you dig up anything more insightful than that?
You hit the nail on the head. Those are the two big things. We let them get too many second chances, and we gave up opportunities and didn't get shots at the rim and gave the ball to them. And I really think that was a physical challenge that early in the game we failed to meet. And I don't think it was until after halftime that we realized, and we tried to tell our guys and prepare for it, and dug ourselves a little bit of a hole in terms of just getting punched in the mouth, as I told you last night after the game, not literally but figuratively. And I think we did a little bit of better job in terms of meeting that in the second half and limiting their offensive glass. But I think the tone was set early on, and that was a big difference in the game.
There's no doubt you've been shorthanded since the start of the year with James Bourne out in ACL. Larry Brown has a hip injury. Is defending the post something that's going to just be an issue throughout the year, or do you have guys that you think are getting better, and by the time the conference season comes around, will be pretty strong in that department?
Well, I don't – we might not be talking about the same thing, because I don't think it was just strictly getting beat between the pipes with post players. I mean, I think our post players fought their butts off. And, guys like Tevin Prescott's numbers indicate that. I think he had 15 and 11.
Yep.
And, he was the guy, whatever he is, 6'5", 190 pounds. I mean, that kid gives you every ounce of his being every time he laces him up. Jared Scott had a very, very good game for us. Just because we say we lost the physical challenge overall, it doesn't mean just our post players got beat up. Our guards really, really have to participate on the backboard. They have to defensive rebound for us. They have to participate by flying down there. We call them crackdown blockouts, where, if you imagine, we use a hockey term sometime about cleaning up the crease. And I guess in hockey sometimes, if they're like free bodies floating around that little circle area around the goal, you just get drilled. And, we tell our guards, they got to fly down there and clean up the crease. If a big comes over to stop penetration, or if a big comes over to block a shot, there's unattended bodies around the rim that they have to come down and get in front of and drive out. So, it's a team effort in terms of, becoming an elite rebounding team or a good rebounding team. And we're working to become that, but we're not there yet.
What is the status of we know James is out for the year, but what about Larry and Zach Price, and just how much over the mono are the two freshmen? Like, how close to 100% are the guys that are going to participate this year?
Well, I think the two guys that had mono are back physically 100%. What that did when they got sick is it left them out of practice for a month, and they dug a big sort of mental hole where the train was moving forward and we were putting sets in and implementing our system. And then when they came back, it was they were already in a hole because they're freshmen, and then they were in a double big hole. So, but they're we don't even think about that anymore. And those guys are back 100% healthy. They're working really, really hard to get better. You talk about two of the bigs that aren't playing maybe as much as some of the other ones in Dubio KK and Joey Lopez, and each have had little glimpses of really, really, of brilliance at times. I mean, in 1 or 2 minute stretches. And both of those kids work really hard in film. They work really hard before and after practice. They're passionate about their craft. And, I say this with with all the certainty in my being that they're both going to be really, really, really good players in a Winthrop uniform. The other guys you mentioned, Zach Price's status is still what it is. We're waiting on a final decision from the NCAA with our fingers crossed. Larry Brown's coming off all-season surgery. And, he's got hip and back issues that are just going to be basically whether he can tolerate a whole lot of pain. And he can. He's a really, really tough kid. But, he hasn't played virtually any basketball since last March when he played his last game in the Big South Conference tournament. So he's, he's out of shape at this point. And obviously he's trying to feel his way through what he can and can't do.
We talked before the Savannah State game on Monday, Pat, about Keon Johnson and getting him back into a rhythm. He had a great game last night with 22 points, I think with 12 of 13 at the free throw line. How important is it to get him back on track?
Yeah, really important. Those three guards, especially, the returning guys from last year that were really effective for us, and Andre Smith, Keon Moore, and Keon Johnson. When all three of those guys are firing in the right way, no pun intended, but when they're all on and they're all playing really well, like they were at Clemson, we're capable of beating almost anybody. You can't have two of them not play well offensively in the same game, and it wasn't the greatest offensive game in terms of scoring the ball for Keon Moore and for Andre Smith, although Andre had 7 assists and 1 turnover, which is a phenomenal assist-to-turnover ratio, as you know, in basketball. But it was good to see Keon get going. Keon's an attacker. We talk about our shot spectrum all the time and how the highest volume of shots we want are from the free throw line, second highest at the rim, third highest open threes, fourth highest paint twos, and last but not least, non-paint twos. And it's amazing. He's 5'4", and he's the best on our team at scoring at the rim in terms of a perimeter player because he's an attacker. He's got a one-track mind when he has a ball in his hands, and that's either getting to the rim or putting the ball in the bucket, and that's what makes him special.
In baseball, we talk a lot about with hitters, hitting can be contagious. Do you find shooting is a little bit like that with your shooters, that they have that kind of camaraderie, but they also want to contribute too?
I think so. I've thought of free throw shooting that way a little bit more than perimeter shooting, if you will. It seems like when free throws are going down for certain guys, they're going down for everybody. And then, when certain guys get the yips, everybody gets the yips, if you know what I mean,
yeah.
To use a golf term or a Steve Sachs term or Chuck Knobloch throwing the ball from second base to first base. Yeah. But yeah, no, I've seen that before. I feel that sometimes as well.
When you look at the team through what is now a little bit less than a quarter of the season, 20% of the season, you said at the start of the year, it's going to be a work in progress. We're working up to the Big South. We're trying to get better. What are the areas you're still trying to improve upon the most? What are the areas of emphasis?
Well, I think we're close. If you look at the 3 losses we have, I think it's by a combined, whatever it is, 7, 8, 9 points, something like that. 2 of the losses we have are at the buzzer.
Oh.
The basketball gods, we always joke about it, and you think over the course of your career or over the course of a couple seasons, things sort of even out.
Yeah.
You think back to last year's Asheville game, and we're down 11 with 1 minute and 17 seconds to play. We come back and win. We throw in Andre wouldn't admit it that it's a prayer, but we threw in a prayer in the Big South tournament against High Point. Yeah. The ball goes in, and we advance. And, here we are in the early stages, and 2 buzzer beaters got us going in the other direction. So that's sort of how it goes. But so whatever we are, 3-3. We're that close to.
You didn't want to run that play for Andre last night?
No. And even the East Tennessee State game. That thing is a 1-possession game. We're right there, and that kid makes a fadeaway, fall away 3 with 2 guys right in his 3, and you're maybe that close from being 6-0. So it's just how it goes. And you I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you ask about like what things. I always say this, and I'm a really boring interview when it comes with this, is we're always just trying to tighten the bolts in our system. And that's why I go back and watch our game tape over and over and over again, especially from a defensive perspective, first and foremost, just to see, not what major adjustments we can make, where were the breakdowns in our system. And, I thought last night, obviously, the backboard was one of them. But the other thing I think they exploited us in and with is dribble penetration. They had some very, very quick, athletic, slithery type guards that could dart into the paint. And obviously they could really, really shoot it as well. And when they started making shots, we do what I always hope we don't. And we start getting a little bit closer to shooters, which opened up daylight for their drivers, and then we didn't do a good job of keeping them from driving in straight lines. So obviously something that's something that we're going to have to clean up.
When you address the team and you tell us, hey, we're 9 points away from being undefeated this year and pretty pleased we're getting better as a team. When you talk to the team, how do you balance, hey, we need to get better in X, Y, and Z, and guys, we're having a good year and we're doing the things I want to do?
Well, I guess you got to be who you are. Your style is your style as a coach, and you guys have been to practice, and I'm very, very demanding on our players through good times and bad. When we have a 5-game winning streak or if we lose a couple in a row, I go to practice every day saying I'm not going to let and this is I'm not going to let one thing slip. Nothing. Attention to detail is what I want our guys to be all about, our coaching staff, our players, and I demand that from ourselves as well. So my demeanor is the same all the time. One thing that I try to do is not get emotional after a loss in the locker room. I always tell myself and I tell the players I'm going to watch the tape and I'm going to evaluate. And human nature takes over sometime, and emotion takes over, and you lose your temper, and sometimes that's called for. But we do really stress that the season is a marathon, not a sprint. And are we getting better every day is the phrase that we use. And as long as we're doing that, and you'll take steps backwards sometimes. Like you'll come out of a game or a couple practices and say, we're not getting better right now. And got to look yourself in the mirror and figure out what you have to do better, and then clean up those mistakes and then move forward. Just keep chopping wood, as Marvin Lewis says from the Cincinnati Bengals.
We're live at Buffalo Wild Wings. It's our Winthrop Basketball Coaches Show. You can ask a question for Coach Olsen using hashtag WooCoaches on Twitter. That's hashtag WUCoaches. We're back with more after this on the Winthrop Sports Network. We're back on our Winthrop Coaches Show from Buffalo Wild Wings. Hope you'll join us next week here at BW3's 101 days until Selection Sunday. Great boneless wings here at Buffalo Wild Wings off Dave Lyle Boulevard in Rock Hill. Winthrop will travel to the University of Maryland Saturday. It's a 2 o'clock game, a 1:30 tip-off. We'll talk about the Terps in a moment, but you've got a lot of your staff and some of your support staff here tonight, and it's good to see everyone supporting the team.
Yeah, I have a phenomenal staff, as you know, and a lot of our coaches are here, GAs, Director of Basketball Operations. But the guys that I do want to recognize is our managers. They're an unbelievable group of guys, the team within the team, and not all of them are here tonight, but Corey Sloan's here and Tanner Nestle and Blake Dwyer. For those people out there that are listening that don't know about the managerial system in college basketball, they're an unbelievable group of guys that are selfless, that work hard, that show up first, that leave last. And if I owned a company and I was a business person, the first group of people that I would hire are managers. Somebody told me couple weeks ago, one of the coaches, it was on the road in July, and we were talking about managers, and he said, talk about the resourcefulness.
Sure.
And he said there's going to be 2 species left on Earth when Armageddon hits and the world comes to an end. There's going to be 2 species, cockroaches and managers. So, but I love those guys, and they're such a big part of what we do, and I really appreciate them, and it means a lot they came out tonight.
One of the Yahoo guys, it might have been Dan Wetzel yesterday, had a tweet about how there's Usain Bolt and then there's managers setting up those chairs in timeouts for basketball games. Maryland is 7-1. They lost in the ACC Big Ten Challenge last night to Virginia. They're the one in the Big Ten. That sounds very strange.
Yeah, Maryland against Virginia in the ACC Big Ten Challenge just doesn't sound weird. It just blows my mind. I don't get it. I guess that's the new age of college sports. That's how it goes.
This is a Terrapin team that went 17-15 last year, but they're off to a good start this year under fourth-year head coach Mark Turshin. When you watch the tape, when you dope it out, what do you see?
Well, they're much different than last year. There's a ton of new faces, and similar to us, they've had some injury trouble here early on. A young man named Desmond Wells, who's an All-American candidate, is currently injured, and who knows, he may play on Saturday. I have no idea.
Just to see you.
Just yeah, exactly. That's
former Xavier guy.
Former Xavier guy, yes, sir. And but they're a typical ACC team in terms of their talent. They're like Noah's Ark. They got 2 of everything. They're big, they're long, they're physical. The freshman point guard, the kid Mello Trimble, is just in first glimpse in the last 24 hours watching him play, and you have to project a little bit. He's an NBA caliber point guard. A little bit more shoot first, pass second right now, but just has elite skills. And then the other kid, Jake Lehman.
Yep. The big
6'8", 3'4", really skilled. Both of those kids remind me a little bit in a way, in another level, probably better players, of the kid Rackley that we played last night that was one of the best in the country at getting to the free throw line. Both Trimble and both Lehman are attacking type offensive players that can really score the ball, and they're their 2 leading scorers right now, but also have ability to get to the free throw line at an alarming rate. So we got to do a good job, obviously, of guarding them. And like all high-level teams, the game starts when the ball goes up on the backboard. We have to get much much better between now and Saturday at eliminating second shots.
Do you have some memories of playing Maryland at Wake Forest?
It's funny, and if anybody's listening out there, he didn't set this up, but maybe one of my worst memories in the history of my coaching career. It was my first year at Wake Forest, and it was 2001, and we were the number 12 team in the country, and Maryland was the number 1 team in the country, and they had Steve Blake and all those guys, and Juan Dixon, and it was the last game at Cole Fieldhouse. And for people who know about college basketball, Cole Fieldhouse is one of the most vaunted, famous facilities in college basketball. So we were playing the last game there. They were shutting it down. They were going to open up the Comcast Center the next year, and we had Josh Howard and Darius Ngila and all these guys, several NBA type players. And it's a tie game, and Maryland is on the line. Tie game, Maryland's on the line shooting a 1-and-1, and there was like 2.4 seconds left. And I forget who was shooting it. It might have been Lonnie Baxter, I think it was. And his free throw rimmed out, and the ball tipped off somebody's fingers, and it was going out of bounds. And in slow motion, I can see this right now, and it actually makes me want to throw up. But Josh Howard and Brett Hickman was on the team. Tom Hickman's son, Brett, was on the team. And Josh Howard and Brett and Josh Howard are very, very good friends. So, yeah, he knows what I'm about to say. So he's running toward the ball. He picks the ball up. He's in the corner of the court. He's falling out of bounds, and he turns and he calls a timeout. And we have no more timeouts. So Maryland goes back to the line, makes 2, takes the ball out of bounds, and we lose. And I'm the guy on the sideline that's in charge of keeping timeouts. The one thing I will take to my grave is when we came out of the huddle, because I'm sort of excessive.
No timeouts.
No timeouts. And Josh wasn't always the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I don't think he decided to listen to me. But I didn't eat for about the next week, and I was scared for my job. But the rest is history. Kept me around and won a few games after that. But that's my favorite, not favorite, but that's my most memorable Wake Forest, Maryland story.
We talked to Kevin about this earlier. They're going to play at Ohio State on Sunday. How important is it not just to get to the big stage, but maybe to have that comfortability to schedule games like Maryland?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Kevin's team and the women's team. Man, what an unbelievable win against Auburn. Man, that's really, really, really big for his program. And obviously you guys know the caliber of coach that I think Kevin is and what he's building there. So I give them a big tip of the cap. But, I think I know for our players, there's a bounce in their step right now. I mean, even coming off a loss, they know we're going to play on the biggest, brightest stage. And our guys proved a couple weeks ago that they're not scared. We went down to Clemson and took their initial punches and stood there toe-to-toe and looked them in the eye. And I told our guys, the goal is, and we always talk about 4-minute wars, can we get to that last 4-minute war where we got a shot? And then we'll find a way. But who knows? We're going to go up there. We're going to play our butts off. I know one thing: we're going to be the first to the floor for loose balls, and we're going to play our brains out, and it'll be a lot of fun.
When you look at this group of games now, Maryland at home for Mars Hill, then at Auburn, at Southeast Louisiana, you were on the road and quite a long distance from here last night. It's 4 road games in 5 games.
Yeah.
Is that something that gets you better come to this tournament?
I think so. I think any type of adversity or any type of challenges, it makes you. I think being on the road that much, I think helps team camaraderie, helps chemistry. You're around each other so much. You're on buses, you're on airplanes, you're in hotels and things like that. But yeah, I mean, even this early part of the year has been a lot of miles that we've logged on buses, and that's going to be the case for the next couple weeks. But we and again, this is boring coach speak, but we don't look too far in the future. Right. You trip over what's right in front of you. I mean, all we're worrying about is preparing for the Maryland Terrapins on Saturday at 2:00. But we'll take them one day at a time, and those road trips we'll try to be as organized and productive, or as organized as possible, so that we can stay consistent in our approach.
We talk a lot about March and being ready in March, best in March, healthy in March. How important in the grand scheme of things is December? What can you do now that helps you in March?
Well, I mean, that's the goal. The goal is to be your freshest, your best, playing your best, healthiest in March. And I think last year we were that. We peaked at the right time. And, we plan very carefully, even in the preseason, how we do our preseason conditioning, and that we don't do a lot of pounding on the court. You come to practice, and our practices are very, very intense, but I don't think there's 10 programs in the country that practice fewer hours than we do. I mean, if we're on the court for 2 hours and 10 minutes, that's a really long practice for us. And, I think at some point when you practice too long, it becomes diminishing returns. So we try to keep it short and keep those guys energetic and excited about being in the gym and excited about playing, and continuing to improve on our weaknesses, so that hopefully when we get to January and February and we're in the guts of the conference season and we head into that all-important conference tournament, all things are firing at the right time.
The other part of planning for December is you have the ramp up to the season starting. Then you have the first 3 or 4 weeks, you're playing games every 3-4 games, and then you hit you hit exams, and then you hit Christmas. How do you try to keep that edge going into January?
Yeah, you sort of split the year up. Obviously you have that big long 6 weeks of just practice. Okay, and then once that chapter ends, you close that book and you say, okay, fellas, we're venturing into the second big part of the season. That's the preseason, and it's weird because you have weird games. You got one on Monday, you got one on Thursday, and you got, it's just different. And once you get into conference play, it gets a little bit more cookie cutter. You get into a rhythm. You're going to play a game during the week and a game on the weekend, and then you're almost always going to be off on Sunday, and then it just goes over and over. And once you kind of get in that rhythm, the guys, I think, whether it's academically and basketball, you just kind of like start feeling it out a little bit better, and it gets you in a rhythm a little bit. So we're at that point right now. We're getting slowly to the end of that pre-conference schedule, And then obviously the unbelievably heated conference battles are going to get started here in a couple weeks.
Coach, before we let you go, we had a question here before the show from a fan that came out to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we want to encourage people to come out here. And if they come out, they can ask you guys questions on the air or off the air. But about pressure defense, when teams press you, when they trap you, what is the key to handling that and feeling confident in that and kind of even using its advantage?
It's funny you say that because we've been talking about this a lot with our guys. I used to, as a point guard, when I was a player, I would be insulted when I was pressed. I was insulted. I'm insulted that you think that you can send two guys at me and I'm not going to beat the trap, beat the 2-on-1, so we have a 5-on-4 on the backside. So it's a little bit of a stick your chest out and be, man up a little bit. Like, I'm not going to succumb to the pressure. I'm going to so I think that's part of it, is just that confidence and that toughness, that mental toughness of overcoming that. And what I talk to our guys, and I've always said this, is, pressing teams want you to hear heavy metal music. They want you to hear Metallica. They want you to hear noise, and they want it to look like there's 8 guys on the floor because they're creating chaos. And what I tell them is, I want classical music in your head. I want the game to slow down to you no matter how hard they're coming to pressure. So, and I think these last couple games we played against a lot of pressure teams, obviously not last night, but we've gotten better in that area.
That's Winthrop's Pat Kelsey. He'll be listening to Beethoven on the way home from Buffalo Wild Wings. We appreciate him and Coach Cook for joining us. Thanks to the great folks here at BW3s and to Austin Peak back in studio. Is Thursday here at Buffalo Wild Wings. But in the meanwhile, men's basketball at Maryland on Saturday, the women at Ohio State on Sunday, and home games for both teams next week. Tickets, 803-323-2345. 323-2345. For Mike Pacheco, I'm Dave Friedman. We'll talk to you next time on the Winthrop Sports Network.